Hi friends, I'm Scott Giles, and welcome to Power Talk, my podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I cover topics related to spirituality, hypnotic coaching, and the hypnotic arts and sciences in general. If you'd like to know more about my professional work or sign up for my free e-newsletter, Power Lines, check out my website, which I'll tag at the end of this video. Well, today I want to talk about a problem that many of us experience over the course of our lifetimes. How best to respond when we are asked to do something thankless. That is, do a task we agree needs to be done, but we know will either upset other people or will be something that others will just take for granted despite our hard work. Well, at least part of what messes people up about this, I believe, is our own social conditioning. Whatever one might believe about the Bible, there can be no denying that it is a foundational cultural document for us. A lot of the ethical beliefs people have are rooted in the social assumptions from that document. And one of the major social memes that we see is the notion of going the second mile for another person. Well, by that, what is typically meant is that it's praiseworthy to help other people even more than they deserve. The scriptural basis for this can be found in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 38 and following. Quote, Jesus saying, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your coat, give your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go also a second mile. Give to everyone who begs from you, and do not refuse anyone who wants to borrow from you." End quote. Well, there are probably few verses in the Bible that have messed people up as much as this one. And a big chunk of that difficulty is that it's really a misunderstood translation. You see, the New Testament is written in Greek, a casual form called Koine Greek. However, as far as we can tell, the historical Jesus of Nazareth did not speak Greek, which was the language spoken only by the most educated classes. As a skilled tradesman, a carpenter, Jesus probably spoke Aramaic. Now, Aramaic was a transitional language in the Middle East during the first century. It was used between the time when everyone spoke Hebrew and everyone spoke Greek. It's a version of language that uses Hebrew letters, but with Greek vocabulary and syntax. And we are pretty sure that this is the language spoken by the historical Jesus, because in those places in the New Testament where his exact words were written down, we see Aramaic. For example, when Jesus was said to be dying on the cross, as is recorded in Matthew 27, verse 46, and about 3 o'clock Jesus cried with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lima sabachthani?" That is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Unquote. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That's not Hebrew, that's not Greek, that's Aramaic. But there is a problem with ancient Aramaic. In the first century, Aramaic did not use punctuation to show emphasis. there was no way to express emotion in the written form of the language that we would use an exclamation point. Instead, an Aramaic speaker would use exaggeration as a way of expressing that emphasis. The Aramaic listeners understood that and therefore didn't take the literal meaning at face value. So when Jesus said, as is recorded in Matthew chapter 5, verse 29 and following, if your right eye offends you, pluck it out, or if your right hand offends you, cut it off, he did not mean you should actually pluck out your eye or cut off your hand, and there were no eyeless, one-handed disciples. He was simply exaggerating to make his point, and his listeners understood that. Well, that's the case with Go the Second Mile meme as well. There was never an intention that you should actually be so generous to others that you harm yourself. He was just saying it's really good to be generous. But that's not what people today think he meant. The result is that a lot of us are culturally conditioned to do more for other people than we probably should. And there are a lot of people who are more than happy to let us. And they will feel no serious need to thank us, and they may even complain that we didn't do more or that there were side effects resulting from what we did do. Thankless tasks. So what do we do about such things? Well, my answer is to do what you believe is right, but expect nothing in return. A task ceases to be thankless if no thanks is expected. Simply live your life doing what you think is right. Now, along with this counsel comes the admonition not to be a patsy either. If you're going to be self-referencing, which is the professional term for what I just described, you also need to be self-reflective. You need to ask yourself if you're doing something because you think it's right and healthy for you, or have you somehow ended up in a codependent place questing for the approval from others that they're using to manipulate you? And resolving that question is the key to keeping a thankless task from becoming abusive. You have to know where to draw the lines. Because there is something I call self-destructive care. That is, caring about something so much that you let others take advantage of you. Don't let that happen. If resentment is rearing its ugly head, that's a warning sign from your consciousness that it's time to rethink and ensure that it doesn't happen again. If you want to go the extra mile, if you want to be a generous person, that's fine. But if you find you resented, that's a warning that you've gone too far. Hey, thank you for your time and attention today. I'll be back next week with another talk on a different subject, and I'd like to invite you to join me. It does help me if you let others know about my work and my videos, so please like, share, and subscribe. And if I can be of help to you, feel free to reach out through email, my website, or my Patreon channel, and have a great week.